Hey, I am Amy, and I am working on a journey toward healing. If you follow me on Facebook, I have a Facebook page, and I also have a blog on Wix. If you're interested, comment below, and I will set the links to those for you to follow. Today, I'm going to talk about meditation, and I'm here with my friend Amanda Hinton. Hi, Amanda.
Hey, Amy.
I have known Amanda for 13 years. No.
Oh, wow, you did the
12.
math.
No, 10. It's been a while. I know this for a fact. I think I met you in 2008.
I think
That's 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
I was close. We met at a job and enjoyed walking together on our breaks to talk about our struggles. I feel like that's where we really connected. So yeah, and we've been in contact ever since, even though now she lives in Colorado and I'm in Texas. It's okay, we're still in touch. So I am talking to Amanda today because she has become a certified meditation instructor. Is that the correct terminology?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's had that for what, a year, 2 years? Since 2017.
Yeah, it's almost 2 years. Yeah.
2 years. So I just wanted to talk to you kind of about your background and what led you to meditation. Go ahead.
The floor is mine. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for having me on here. Yeah, you're probably the first non-college friend I made. I think I graduated college and then joined the workforce. And then I was like, I'm careful about my friends, but I liked you. So like you said, we went on our walk. So we got out of the office, which everybody needs a break from that every now and then. So when you reached out to me, I was like, oh yeah, we totally could. Cause you and I have some really great conversations about lots of things like spirituality and what it means to be a woman in this day and age. And for better or worse, you probably heard me talk a lot about meditation, especially when I first started exploring it. So I'm really happy to be here. Where do you want me to start? Just like where?
I think kind of, I don't know, start with like what kind of led you into pursuing meditation as a practice?
Yeah. So I guess it was probably in 2013. I had moved up to Colorado, and I was living in a basement of a house. Like I always mention the basement because it was like dark and cold, and that was really like jarring for a Texan like me. Mm-hmm. There had just been a series of events. So I was just feeling really off. I was feeling really lost. And then my grandmother passed away. And she had been just a really wonderful figure in my life. And she was someone who I could always call. And she was very open. She was a very open woman. She was very open-minded. And when she passed away, I just felt this tremendous loss and this tremendous sorrow. And I didn't have her to call to ask, what should I do? What should I try? Help me have perspective. So yeah, I was in, we all have those really hard times in life. And I was in one of those, on top of being sort of in this town where I knew a few people. I had some good friends, but it just didn't feel like I was really connecting. And so I thought, well, what would grandmother had been open to? What would she have explored? And I thought, she probably did meditation. I probably shouldn't know it, just because I think she tried to like introduce me to her crazy one level at a time. And I mean that with as much affection as I can say it.
So that's where you got it from. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, she was a homeopathic doctor. She sold vitamins.
What? How did I never know this?
I don't know. Yeah, she was a vitamin lady before it was cool. So I grew up with essential oils in my baths, and when I was a little girl, like she's pretty rocking. She's pretty ahead of her time. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know anything about meditation except that it sounded kind of scary. But like I said, I was in that place where I was pretty desperate. I felt like I would try anything. So I tried, signed up for one of those free, like, Oprah and Deepak Chopra meditation things. And it had me, you know, lay on my bed and listen to these gongs and, you know, again, very open. And I don't judge anybody who finds value in those, but it just wasn't feeling like a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, I was like, I'm just going to ask the universe, which is a very foreign concept for me at the time. I'm just going to ask the universe to bring me what I need. And I'm just going to be open. And when I do that, I try to like imagine in my head, like my heart opening as big as it can. And probably 2 or 3 weeks later, I was in Boston at a marketing conference of all things. And, you know, they have those breakout sessions where you can get a break from marketing topics.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a woman talking there, and her name was Susan Piver, and she was talking about mindful communication. And I loved her presentation. I loved the things she shared. And at the end, she mentioned that she had an online meditation community and online meditation videos that you could go and watch. And I just felt this instant sort of connection. And I thought, well, let's give this a try. And so I did. I jumped right in. I started watching the videos, and the rest is history. As that's sort of when I launched into figuring out, you know, what meditation was going to be for me.
Mm-hmm. So what about hers was different than the Oprah Chopra thing that didn't resonate with you?
So at the time, I probably couldn't have identified it. I just knew, as someone who knew nothing about meditation, that it just didn't click. And I think, and that's what's hard, I think, for a lot of people considering meditation, is you expect it to, you take this quiz and this is the meditation you should do, and then it's done. And it's like, it's not that way. It's an extremely personal thing. And now 5 years later, I can say that, you know, there's all these different types of meditation that you can try. And what Deepak and Oprah were offering was more of an object-centered meditation, where you're putting your mind onto an object. And we'll probably get into this later, but what I'm certified in is called shamatha, which is mindfulness awareness meditation, where we're just coming back to the breath. We're not fixated on any one thing.
Gotcha.
And so, and I've got a great book I could give you that talks all about how everybody's brain is wired differently. Mm-hmm. Some people benefit more from object-based meditation. Some people benefit more from breath awareness. And so it's really just a matter of learning about what works and what doesn't work.
Okay. Ooh, this is so exciting, because now I kind of feel a little bit better. I don't know. I tend to gravitate towards guided meditation only because my thoughts are so much all the time that, like, to have, and I get that the focus on the breath thing helps you sort of, I don't know, go back to a center, but having the object for me is a little bit easier to focus on and not so much block, but not get caught up in that train of thought. So go ahead. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that in finding a meditation practice, it's really important not to judge your experience.
Right.
So, you know, we could try the kind that I practice, and if it doesn't work for you, if you feel like it's just, like I said, if it's just off, mm-hmm. then try something else, and that's completely fine. Right. Your body will tell you what it needs. I really do believe that. So anybody who's watching, you know, if you've tried object-based and it just doesn't seem to be a fit, it might be that your brain's wired a little differently, and mm-hmm. that a different type might be a better fit.
Right. So this kind of leads us into what is the definition of meditation, and what is its ultimate purpose?
Yeah. So that's a big question.
It is.
I think, going back to something I think I said earlier, is that it's very hard to say there's one definition of meditation. And I'm really careful not to ever offer any blanket statements. around it's definitely this and it's definitely never this. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think I would struggle to find value in, meditation at a rock concert. It probably could be done. I'm not one to say it couldn't be, but there's probably some settings in which meditation can be nurtured better. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, if you're looking for a meditation practice, you're looking for something that that helps you bring more awareness to yourself. Mm-hmm. And to help you understand who you are in this lifetime and what you're experiencing. Sakyong Mifam Rinpoche, I know, big name. We have lots of big names in meditation. Oh. He's a meditation master. He and plenty of other meditation masters will talk about, they call them monkey brain, and how we all have these monkeys jumping around in our heads. That's universal. I don't know that anybody on planet Earth doesn't have that feeling.
I don't know. I might argue, because Simon always says he's thinking about nothing. So he might not have any monkeys.
Hey, you should write a book. No monkeys in my head.
No monkeys in my brain.
And so the goal of meditation is to help you relate better to those monkeys and to learn how to recognize when they are taking you, maybe down a narrative that's not true in your mind. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're just distracting you. Maybe they're feeding your anxiety, and just recognizing that we all have those monkeys and how do you relate to them so that they don't just take over your whole life. So I think that would be probably a good way to describe it is that meditation should really help you become more in touch with yourself and who you are. Then also there's usually a practical side to it as well.
Right. So part of my experimentation, I guess, throughout this journey is trying to seek practices and modalities that help to garner some healing in my life. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know if, based on your experience, and I know it's probably not fair to put so much value on one thing to do something that drastic. I realize that. But have you found, or did you approach meditation for that purpose, to heal? I know to be more aware, but let's go with that first.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I don't think that at the time my frame of mind wasn't I have this problem and I need to heal from it and it's got to get better, and so I'm going to do this. I'm going to find a medicine for it. It was just the messiness of life. It was just big, and I was trying to find a way to make it less big, for lack of a better term. And so I think, looking back, for my own experience, I could say that I feel like I've experienced some areas of transformation in how I relate to myself. Mm-hmm. I've learned how to recognize when that critical voice comes in. We all get that critical voice, and to respond with kindness, to respond with gentleness. It doesn't mean that meditation ever makes that critical voice go away, but the more that I've been able to sort of meet it, not with anger or aggression or why can't you stop being so critical? That's a real voice in my head, guys. The more that I've learned how to create that, I have felt that there's been just a softening in how I relate to myself.
Gotcha. Excuse me. So you've kind of answered how long you've been practicing. That's been since 2013, right? So about 6 years, correct?
Yep.
And what led you to become certified? Like what brought you to that place?
Well, by one part of it, I think, was that my practice had become really personal to me. It had become a really foundational part of how I related with the world, related with myself. And I was already sort of telling people about it all the time. But I come from, I come from a background that in a religious organization that doesn't really value training and credentials and accountability. And so for me, this was the closest I had come to finding, meditation is definitely a spiritual path. It's a very spiritual and intimate sort of journey. It's a self journey. It is not dictated by any one person. And it was very important to me that if I was going to introduce these concepts and just the technique to other people, that I do it with accountability and I do it with credibility, because obviously I had my own experience, but I wanted to learn from teachers who could really ask me hard questions to make sure that I was in the right place of life to be certified and to be sharing the technique and walking alongside other people on their meditation journey. So that was a big part for me, is to be able to say, I don't just do this, in some corner of my house. Like, I'm actually connected and I am held accountable.
Okay. That makes me kind of want to do it. Become certified because I'm in the corner of my house not being credible.
Oh no, I don't mean that. I don't mean that
I'm
at
totally
all.
Kidding.
I wanted to be able to teach people with
I get it.
with confidence.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So I would love for you to talk about some common misconceptions people might have about meditation. I know from my background, there was fear that meditation would open your mind to maybe potential evil possession or things of that nature. So could you clear that up a little bit for us?
Sure. I completely relate to what you just shared.
Yes.
Anything that had, colorful fabrics and looked like it was from the Middle East was always to be very suspect.
Which, if we're going to be honest, let's talk about who actually was from the Middle East. I mean, come on.
Yes. It's so sad that they've edited out the real robes Jesus probably wore.
Yes, exactly.
The illustrated Bible really should be more ethnically and culturally accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. Wait, what was the question?
Misconceptions.
Oh, misconceptions. Sorry. Thanks for hanging with me.
No worries.
So like you, I had a lot of fear that meditation was some sort of experience where I would lose control, where I would not be in command of my senses, my body, the experience, that somehow I would be relinquishing control, mm-hmm. and somebody else would be in charge. And I think that, that would be a big misconception, I think, among people who are either still deeply connected to the religious faith or who have walked away from religious faith, that meditation is some sort of trick or some sort of place where you just space out. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think what else. That was the main one for me. I think another misconception on the other end is that meditation is a technique and to be mastered and to be perfected. And if you do it, then you're going to have 1, 2, 3 outcomes.
Right.
And that's so, first of all, I think just in general, for anything in life, to guarantee an outcome of 1, 2, 3 or excellence or no more anxiety, that really is just, I feel, intellectually dishonest, mm-hmm. And irresponsible for anyone to say that this one thing can fix you and solve all your problems. So those are probably the 2 biggest misconceptions, because mindfulness meditation is a big buzzword right now, and it's been very interesting to watch it go from something that only my little community sort of practice. And obviously the community is actually very large, but in America, it was not as mainstream.
Right.
As it is now. And I know my teachers and some of the people that I really admire are very cautious and careful to make sure that if someone has been given some sort of promise, whether it's on a Facebook ad or an eager young
blogger trying to heal. Yeah.
No. No. People who claim to have authority over the topic, and
Gotcha.
they turn it into something that can just turn the light off on your personal suffering. That they address that really kindly and really gently, and try to make space for the reality of being human and the reality of what meditation can and cannot do, which only that person can know.
Right.
Only you can know your path. Right.
So for somebody who's never tried a meditation, what are some resources, some steps? Like, what would you recommend?
So I'm a reader. I also love videos. So if I were to go back to, sitting on piles of pillows back in that basement in Colorado, I just had an iPad and I had those videos. I had access to Susan's archive and I just watched those videos. Usually just one a day. Sometimes if I was in a binging mood, I would watch a lot of them back to back. So I would say that there's a lot of great resources like that out there. I'd love to link to her site because it was so instrumental. And I don't have online videos and things like that. I sort of felt like Susan's done such a wonderful job to build a really rich archive that I'd rather point someone there and find my own sort of a different way to help than through videos. So I would say start with videos just because books can be challenging. I think they make a good companion to just watching and hearing what they call, there's usually like a 1 or 2 minute Dharma talk, like just like a wisdom teaching at the beginning of each of the videos. So if it's not that, I can share a couple. I wrote down a couple books. The main one that I recommend to everybody, it's a book called Making the Mind an Ally. And it's by that Tibetan master, meditation master I mentioned earlier, that with the long name. And maybe we can just link to it, the Amazon.
I'll link them. Yes.
Yeah. And that was, I remember thinking, wow, I wish I had read this back in the beginning, because it felt like it was, first of all, very simple, very easy to understand. But I think the videos and that book would be they make good companion pieces.
Okay. That's good. So overall for you right now, what benefits have you seen in yourself and maybe even others around you from implementing this practice?
So the monkeys in my brain tend to be, influenced a lot by anxiety. So I struggle with both anxiety and depression. And I spent a lot of time in my 20s trying to figure out how to get resources for myself. So I would say that meditation was a really good, sorry, I'm using this phrase a lot, a really good companion to the therapy I was in. I've had a therapist for a really long time. I love therapy. I think it's great. Everybody should have a therapist, even if your life is hunky-dory. I totally recommend seeing a counselor, even once a quarter. It's really great. So I would say that meditation helped me see what was going on in my body and in my mind, instead of just being run ragged, which if anybody has ever struggled with anxiety, you know how that feels, to just feel like you're all of a sudden you're jumping off a cliff and you can't quite figure out why. I feel like meditation and the practice of coming back to my breath created what some teachers call it the pause. And by practicing that, almost like an exercise for your brain, a very gentle exercise. You know, if I'm sitting on the cushion and I'm saying all my thoughts are welcome, but I'm not going to focus on them. I'm going to let them go and come back to my breath. Over time, I noticed that without even trying, I was able to go, oh, my anxiety just went like this. I'm going to come back to my breath and try to rest instead of chasing it and building it and growing the narrative. Maybe that's a little bit about what we talked earlier. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but that was a huge part of it. And so being able to say, okay, I'm not going to let, well, not that I'm not going to let it, but anxiety is what it is. It doesn't answer to anybody, but it does not have to rule you, and it doesn't have to ruin relationships. My anxiety has ruined a lot of relationships over the years because I couldn't see, I struggled to see the difference between my anxiety making me scared versus the reality of someone actually being maybe a harmful influence in my life. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing. And so when you learn how to not let your brain run away, all of a sudden you're able to focus, okay, I'm having a fight with my husband, but instead of going off this ledge, I'm going to step back from that and I'm going to try to listen, and I'm just going to try to be here. I'm going to try to actually stay with the sensations in my body, not all the thoughts that are running through my head. Right. I'm going to try and just neutralize the situation. And so from there, you know, when you're not sort of run wild by the anxious monkeys,
yes.
Suddenly you can start sort of, I've started to feel anyways, more confident in the choices that I was making in life because I wasn't, like I said, being run ragged by my thoughts.
One of the ways my therapist explained it to me is that when you meditate, you do create a space, like a literal space, like something grows in your brain. I don't know. You may be able to verify this scientifically, but that's what allows for the pause. So instead of immediately reacting in a situation, like for me and my kids, I'm kind of chronically triggered by certain things that they do. Mm-hmm. And one of my triggers is not being heard. So obviously I know that goes back to way back in the back. So when I'm not heard, I'm immediately hurt and I feel angry. And so I react, I lash out. But creating this practice and growing in an awareness of those things through therapy as well, I'm able to recognize it. And before I immediately, have a reaction, I have that time to stop. And you froze. Oh, there you are. And think about what I'm going to say before I say it, instead of immediately going down the negative train or the angry train or whichever train mm-hmm. I've created in my brain.
Yeah. So the really fun part about being in the 21st century is that science is finally catching up to what meditation masters have sort of known and guided people through for a couple millennia at this point. And that's what's really nice. And I think, honestly, that's what's helped the Western culture open up to it and not feel quite so threatened by it, is because they can see the data, mm-hmm. for lack of a better term. So I've read about those studies that they're able to actually now notice gray matter and activity around your gray matter actually growing and changing from just that a mindfulness practice. So I'm glad for it. I think I always err on the side of even the data doesn't guarantee each individual person will experience those things. But if it opens the door to someone not being quite so scared, like I was super scared of it, I didn't know what it was going to do to me. Then I'm all for it. And it's so great that the medical community is starting to be able to see the benefits as well. It's awesome.
So why don't we grow some gray matter right now? What do you think about that? I want to grow some gray matter. Okay.
Sure.
I would love for you to lead us in a meditation. If you guys are still watching, I know this is a long video. I guess Amanda will just get us in the right frame of mind and help us grow some
Sure.
better, right?
So the actual meditation, um, um, the times I'm going to time it. I'm going to set a timer. It's just like a free timer on my phone, so we don't go forever. Nobody wants to sit forever. It's hard enough. I remember even just 3 minutes at the beginning was so hard. Those monkeys are very irritating.
Very active.
Yes, they're very active. So let me just get this set up, and then I want to make sure that I've accurately explained it before I jump into the actual instruction.
Okay.
So just so that we're clear, so this is one type of meditation, and it's called shamatha, and we can write that at the bottom of the video.
Mm-hmm.
It is mindfulness awareness meditation. It's been was brought over from the East by a meditation master named Trungpa. I won't say his name.
Go again.
It messes everybody up, and now I'm nervous about getting it messed up. But essentially, he was the father of the other gentleman I've been talking about. So he brought it over and really helped take these concepts, make them more westernized. So he sort of started this, what's called Shambhala, which is just like in Christianity, there are different denominations. Within Buddhism, there are different, what they call lineages. And they all tie back to a master teacher. And so I think even Rinpoche's master ties back to somewhere over in the East. So I haven't gone to seminary or anything like that, but I have read a lot. So essentially what we're going to do is, like I said, this is not object meditation. We're not putting our mind on anything. But yeah, so this is just about learning how to sit with your thoughts. So I'm going to start the timer, make sure I can hear it because these are noise canceling. I'm going to set the timer just for 5 minutes, and I'll walk you through the technique, and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay.
Do you want me to keep my video on or turn mine off?
I think keeping the video on is fine. Okay. I have lots of teachers to do this, and I think it's helpful just for anybody who has never meditated before. Part of the technique is how you hold yourself and where your eyes gaze and things like that. So if I can model that and you can follow along, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Sound good?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. So when we sit down to meditate, the first thing we want to do is we want to take a good seat. And by doing that, if we're sitting in chairs, that's great. The only thing that we want to be mindful of is that our feet are flat on the floor, helps protect our back. If you are sitting on a cushion at home, just make sure that your feet aren't crossed like this. That's very painful. Make sure they're just gently side by side like this. Other than that, we want to sit with your back straight. I like to start with my back. I could just take a couple deep breaths and think about the strength that's in my back, and think about how I can elongate my back. You can rest your hands about mid-thigh, somewhere that is comfortable for you. You don't want to stretch too far or be scrunched up. Everything about the posture is to find the most natural and relaxing position for your body. The back of your neck can be long, so you want to be long. We want to tuck the chin just a little bit to make sure that we're protecting our neck. We want to cast our gaze down. So in this meditation, we keep our eyes open because we want to stay engaged with what's around us, and practice not being distracted by what's around us at the same time. The mouth is closed, but the lips and teeth can be slightly parted, just to help relax the jaw a little bit. As we sit here, it's completely natural for thoughts to arise. It's never a problem. The point of this meditation is to not stop thinking, but to notice the thinking. And when you notice it, sometimes it's helpful to say a word like thought or thinking. Then let that thought go. Let it go somewhere else. Right now is your time to meditate. Everything else can wait. The breath is normal and natural. There's no technique here. Simply let air come in your nose and back out your nose. Please release the meditation technique and come back.
Very nice. Do you find that people would struggle to do that because people don't want to sit still for 5 minutes? I was just sitting there thinking, well, yes, thinking and try not to track it, but part of me thinks that maybe having the time to meditate is a bit of a privilege because not everyone, does everyone have 5 minutes that they can sit still and be quiet? I don't know. I don't know if everyone has that. They probably do. And you can make it a priority if you don't. So however you're filling your time, if you want it, then you can pursue it. I don't know, just thoughts.
So I think there's definitely a part of meditation that it's called a discipline for a reason. It's in the beginning, it can be lots of things. It can be exciting. It can be intriguing. It can be annoying. I definitely, for the first year, would just wiggle my little booty on there. And that is just part of, it's just part of learning and growing. But it was never, to me was never a sign that it wasn't working for me. I felt that it was actually a sign that something was stirring. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think something I learned about myself is that when I don't want to address something, that's usually a sign that I have to address it. And I mean that relationally or just internally dealing with my own past hurts. So I can see why especially with the monkey mind, that 5 minutes seems impossible at first. Try 1 minute. 1 minute is excellent. 1 minute is just as excellent as 1 hour,
Right.
because the value is in the orienting your mind and your heart toward, this is my space. I'm coming into my internal space. That's the value. Plenty of any meditation master who tells you you're not good at meditation, you don't listen to them, because it's not about being good at it. It's about showing up as you are. And if you show up as a frazzled or fidgety mother of 5, that's perfectly fine. If you can't make it every day, that's perfectly fine. I don't make it every day. I don't. Life is hard. It's busy. But I've definitely found that the part of stilling your mind is also stilling your body, and helping them be in harmony with one another. So yeah, no, I totally relate. It's really hard to sit still, especially the beginning, and especially when life is busy. Right. But that's why I think for me, it's so important that everybody makes this very, very personal, so that when you're feeling really called to just sit down and rest, and to reconnect with your mind, and to practice meditation, because no one can tell you when to do it or when it's best.
Right.
Only you can.
Only you know. You've been so helpful and so informative.
Thank you, friend.
I hope that anyone watching gets something from it. I'm sure they will. And be sure to send me those links that you.
I will.
And I'll post them below the video. And yeah, if you want to get connected with Amanda, do you take on meditation people? Do you lead those kinds of things? What's kind of your...
So right now, most of my application of meditation is working with people who are trying to write.
Okay.
So I'm a journalist. I work with clients who are trying to deepen their writing practice. And I think that the two go hand in hand really beautifully. But anybody who has questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I know of teachers who are wonderful and who would offer, something like this, where we're on video and you're just walking through the technique. Being guided is excellent. I want to loop back to that really quickly. Something you said that you feel like sometimes wanting guided meditation feels like a crutch. I love being guided. I love having a teacher. It's part of, at least in our lineage, it's part of spiritual instruction is to be instructed every time you sit down, whenever possible. And so there's never, at least in our lineage, there's never a time where someone will just sit down and say, start meditating. They'll always walk you through it. They'll always remind you and refresh those instructions, because it's so nice to be carried like that and to be held like that. So I will say that. So I'd be glad to put anybody in touch or answer any questions, especially if you come from a religious background like we had. I have a lot on my website that I wrote about meditation in the context of leaving fundamental Christianity. So that can be a resource. I'd be glad to share that with people as well.
Yay. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for thinking of me.
Absolutely. I think my next modality is going to be, not really a modality. I'm reading Grain Brain right now. I don't know if you've read that, but just talking about the effects of gluten on our bodies and how that actually affects our brains. And so I have a friend that she's doing some type of nutrition course right now where she's learning all about that. And I ordered some special probiotics that I'm supposed to start taking and see how that affects me. So yeah, that's going to be my next one. It's going to be called Love Your Guts, because it's February. So of course,
Awesome.
I have to stick with the love name.
That sounds great. Well, I'll look forward to watching that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks
All
for
right.
stopping in.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.